Hey everyone, my name is Marianne van Dijk and I help people to take care of themselves in their contact with other people. And today, what I want to talk about is the fact that I got an email from some of my Iranian followers who were having some questions about how to take care of themselves in light of what's happening in terms of violence right now in Iran. And I thought that was I was very touched to receive that request. And I thought it was also a great opportunity to talk about how to take care of yourself in political turmoil. So there's things going on in Iran, there's things going on in Ukraine, there's global warming. I think a lot of us are feeling the need to take care of ourselves in this like challenging time. And of course, there is a different, intensity, and that's like even like like lightly put in, depending on whether you are right in that situation or whether you're just like following the news. So I just want to give you 3 tips how to take care of yourself in political turmoil. And just to emphasize that, depending on the level of violence that you might be in, there might be just therapeutic professional help needed, which I'm not a therapist, right? So just like a disclaimer. So first of all, the most present emotion oftentimes when we deal with political turmoil in whatever way, shape, or form is anger. And the thing is that anger has a bad reputation in most cultures. I mean, I don't know which culture you're from, it might depend, but most of the time we feel that anger is irrational, or we think that it always leads to violence. It has an association with violence. And for that reason, we might want to kind of like repress it or put it away as maybe even childish or whatever. When actually, when you're dealing with political struggles, there's usually a level of um, powerlessness, or at the very least, not being in control of everything. And so that can really trigger anger. And so in NVC, nonviolent communication, the method that I'm using, we say that anger is a super important emotion because it points you to your values and needs that really matter to you. And that's the anger is a way of your body to protect you, to let you know that, hey, there is a very important need that's being threatened. It could be the need for freedom, the need for safety, it could be different types of needs, but the anger is trying to take care of that. And so the important thing to know is that anger wants to move out of the body. If it can't move out, if it can't be expressed, it often leads to all sorts of physical symptoms, depression. And so you want to do that regularly, whether it's that, you have a direct experience of the government being violent to you, or whether you just watch the news and see how that happens. This can really trigger a level of feeling powerless and feeling angry. And so a few ways to take care of anger is that, first of all, you want to do it regularly. So you want to not wait until it's all built up, but even have a daily practice if needed, or whenever you just feel it. And then there's a variety of ways to release it. One way is to punch a pillow, and I can recommend, in my experience, you need like a few pillows piled on top of each other to make it soft enough, and take off any jewelry. And when you hit the pillow, if you want to make a fist, make sure that your thumb is on the outside so you don't hurt yourself. I've hurt myself a few times keeping on my rings, and I just feel like pounding and then hurting myself. So don't do that. Take off your jewelry and put the thumb outside, and then you can punch. And if it's too hurtful for whatever reason, you can also just slap the pillow. That can be very satisfying too. And maybe try to use both hands as well, so you really engage the whole body. And just punch. And what can help you is to put certain types of music. I'll put a few songs that I like to put, but just find for yourself like some hard rock, some heavy metal, like some rap, whatever fits for you. And just put that kind of loud, so it will also, maybe in general, you want to try to maybe keep yourself as insulated as possible. So it just gives you a sense of privacy. Maybe you want to close the curtains, and then just hit the thing. You can also stomp your feet, just walk around and stomp your feet, or shake the legs. And this brings me to another technique, which is called shamanic shaking or somatic shaking, which basically means that you stand up. And again, it's helpful to have the music to kind of like bring you in that mood. And then you just start shaking your body, and you might have to force it a bit at first, like to really go a bit like this, but your body might take over after a while. And you want to try to do this for 3 to 5 minutes. Also the hitting, try to really keep it up for a little bit. It might feel a bit odd at first, so just try to get into it. So yeah, the shamanic shaking or the somatic shaking will help your body to release all sorts of emotions. So it's maybe not just anger. I often notice when I do this, a sense of disgust, like I want to do like this. So any type of sounds also coming out of the throat are very helpful. Maybe you notice you want to say things. This actually also goes when you punch the pillow. Try to say things and make sounds, so because things might come out that you were not aware of. Like, what are you angry about? What are you most angry about of all the things that are happening, right? And sometimes information might come up that's actually very useful to work with later. It might tell you things that you need, or just like, oh, that's really the part that really touches me the most, which gives you more connection with yourself. Lastly, you might want to scream in a pillow. I'm saying in a pillow because then people won't hear you. Maybe you can, depending on your surroundings. Here in Bali, people go to waterfalls to scream. I haven't tried that myself yet, but somewhere that sort of covers your noise so people don't get scared of what's happening. But you could also just warn your flatmates and just scream. Yeah, just letting, and be a little bit careful with your vocal cords, because this can be a little how do you say that, damaging. So be a little careful there. But just let any noise come out. It can even be like just like a annoyed sigh, just like when something just happened, that can also already release something, just like a few big sighs. So all of this to say that it's important to and like think about how you like to express anger as a child. Children know very, very well how to do that, and try to copy that. Try to let the child side of you really, how to say that, come to the fore. You don't want to ignore the wisdom that the child has of how to express things. Anyway, that's about anger. The second thing is about mourning or grieving, because some of the questions that my Iranian followers were asking were really heartbreaking, because they were like, how can NVC help the government see our needs, and how can there were just questions where I know that there is a limit to what NVC can do and what we as individuals can do. So it's great already that a lot of people are protesting. That's so helpful, right? But not everything might happen overnight. The most important things that we want might not change overnight, just realistically, right? And so then in NVC, we say that mourning, just like we do when someone dies, is an important need and is a healthy thing to actually focus on. And so what that could look like is that you might want to write down everything that you mourn, that is sad to you. It could be something like, there is global warming and there are people that are using plastic or eating meat or are, whatever touches you, right? This can be, I'm not saying that I have these opinions. I'm just saying that could be mourning. Or, I'm mourning that people are getting killed, needlessly. And I mean, I don't know if it's ever useful to kill someone, but just like, people are dying. And it might not feel comfortable to actually dive into those things, right? You might even, when you hear me say this, you might be like, ugh, that's painful. But that's exactly what mourning is about, to face those feelings, because they are there anyway. And so you want to actually go a bit towards them. And so going towards the mourning might look differently for everyone. You might want to talk about it. You might want to write about it. You might want to create art about it. There can be many ways of expressing the mourning. Maybe you can cry. Maybe there's something needed for you to cry. Maybe you need to listen to certain music, or can be a bit of a trial and error depending on, also your gender. Like for men, I know it's usually harder to cry. But anything you can do to create like a kind of a safe environment for yourself where you dedicate some time to mourning, because it doesn't happen always automatically, especially if we are in a state of doing a lot. So mourning requires slowing down, stopping for a moment, and listening to our body. Like, where do you feel the mourning? So to spend some time on that too. And then I was saying this thing about going towards the feeling. I got a very helpful sheet from one of my therapists about, it was very general, how to deal with problems. And she was saying there's 4 different options. You can go towards the I'm going to say differently. You can go towards a problem or away from a problem, and you can deal with it together with other people and alone. And you want to have a healthy mix of those. And so with those 4 things, there's like 4 options. I'll put maybe the scheme in the thing in the screen so you can see it. But so I can go towards the problem and really feel it on my own. I can go towards the problem and really talk about it with other people. That's going towards the problem, right? But I want to balance it too with actually going away from the problem, which to some of us might feel like avoiding it, depending on a lot of us have a preference of always going towards it or always avoiding it. And you want to have that balance. So avoiding it, and it's not a nice term, right? But like moving away from it is taking a break and recharging yourself, doing something silly, doing something that brings you joy, like doing karaoke, or inventing a silly song, or making cooking something, or whatever gives you joy and lets you kind of recharge and maybe not think about the thing for even just for a minute or 1 or 2. And lastly, combined with that, I want to ask you, I think if you are invested in social justice, or you just, you are without any choice in the middle of a social injustice situation, you want to keep hope. Hope is very important to keep you recharged. And so I want to ask you to write down 3 things that give you hope. And it could be, make it very specific. It could be, what you see in the people around you about how they are advocating for something too. The type of shared humanity that this might bring, the sense of community or togetherness. Or maybe it is just looking at nature, looking at birds that gives you hope, or hearing a certain type of music or art that gives you a sense of hope. So just to give you some examples. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say. I think that were the things that I had, but I want to invite you, when you're watching this, to please write in the comments your ideas, any type of professionals that have ideas for the people in Iran, for the people in Ukraine, for any people in the world that are, struggling right now, and the people that are invested in following this and trying to amplify the voices, like how to take care of yourself. If you have any ideas, let's gather them all underneath this video. Let's send each other some love, and I hope to see you again soon. Ciao.